Chosen ones, there's a prophetic reason you are listening to this right now. This is not just another message. It is a divine interruption, a spiritual signal, a personal whisper from heaven. Because what I'm about to say is not ordinary. God said, "You can't handle this," and that's exactly why I'm involved. Yes, you. The one who's been faithful in the shadows, the one who's been pressing forward when no one noticed, the one who's still standing even after everything tried to break you. You've been praying for strength, but God didn't answer with muscle. He answered with presence. Because this assignment, this pressure, this burden, it's not yours to carry alone. What's in front of you is too heavy for human hands, too sacred for flesh to manage, too divine to be handled without the one who gave it. And that's the point. If you could handle it, you wouldn't need him. But because you can't, he has stepped in. Heaven is not watching from a distance. Heaven is partnering with you. This is not weakness. This is divine strategy. This is what it means to walk by faith and not by sight. God is saying, let go of control. Stop trying to figure out what only I can orchestrate. Surrender is not giving up. It's handing it over to the one who already wrote the ending. You're not failing. You're being invited into trust. This is the season where God himself will carry what would have crushed you. So before we go any further, if this word has stirred something in your belly, don't scroll past it. Like this message now as a sign of agreement. Subscribe if you know this was sent straight to your spirit. And drop your location and local time in the comments below so we can see where the fire of God is rising. Watchmen being activated from continent to continent. Let hell tremble as God's elect stand up in unity and declare, we are awake and we are ready. This is a global alert, and your agreement in the comments is more than participation. It is prophecy in motion. And to those of you who are sowing into this message, whether through the pinned link in the comments or through super thanks, know this: heaven sees it. Your seed is not a tip, it's not a payment. It is a prophetic act of faith. You are not giving to man. You are sowing into divine alignment. You are declaring with your sacrifice that God is your source, your provider, your sustainer. And God says to you now, because you gave when it cost you, I will provide when it looks impossible. Because you trusted me with what's in your hand, I will blow your mind with what's in mine. This kind of giving moves heaven. It speaks louder than any words you could say. Let us start slowly. Let us walk this together, line by line. You're tired. You've done everything right. Prayed, fasted, obeyed, kept your heart pure, and yet the pressure is unbearable. You're not lazy. You're not rebellious. You're just exhausted from trying to carry something too heavy for human shoulders. And in that moment of breaking, when it feels like everything is about to collapse, here comes the divine whisper that shifts everything. You can't handle this. That's why I'm involved. Those words are not condemnation. They are confirmation that heaven has stepped into your situation. God saw the weight before it reached your hands. He saw the spiritual warfare before it surrounded your mind. And in his mercy, he allowed it not to destroy you, but to draw you closer to his strength. What does that really mean? It means God never intended for you to carry this battle alone. The overwhelming season you're in is not a punishment. It's a platform, a place where your human ability ends and his divine power begins. It's not about failure, it's about alignment. God is shifting your mindset from, I have to do this alone, to I was never meant to do this alone. He allowed the pressure to reveal his presence. The storm came not to drown you, but to usher in the one who walks on water. He's showing you that you were never expected to handle it. You were chosen to host him in it. Many of us were raised in environments that said, be strong, never show weakness, handle it, push through, figure it out. But in the kingdom of God, weakness is not shameful, it is strategic. because the moment you come to the end of your strength, you step into His. You enter a space where grace replaces striving, where mercy speaks louder than your mistakes, where the impossible becomes possible, not by your effort, but by His intervention. When God says, "You can't handle this," He's not reminding you of your limits. He's revealing His nearness. He's calling you out of independence and into divine reliance. And that shift, that's where breakthrough begins. Now I want to teach you something so simple a newborn believer can grasp it, but so profound it will explode in your spirit. This isn't about deep theology or complex doctrine. It's about recognizing the consistent character of God throughout Scripture. He shows up when we can't go any further. Over and over, the Bible reveals a divine pattern. When human strength runs out, divine power steps in. This truth isn't just for Bible heroes, it's for you. Let's trace the pattern of divine involvement and see how God moves when you come to the end of yourself. 1. Moses at the Red Sea, Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 to 14. Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid, stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still." Did you catch that? They were trapped. No escape, no military might, no plan B. They couldn't handle it, and that's exactly why God stepped in. He didn't need their strategy, their weapons, or their strength. He just needed their stillness. Lesson: when the opposition is greater than your ability, God doesn't expect you to fight. He expects you to stand, because sometimes the greatest act of faith is not running or wrestling, it's standing still and letting heaven do what only heaven can do. 2. Gideon started with 32,000 soldiers, but God cut them down to just 300. Why would God shrink an already outnumbered army? Because if Gideon had won with 32,000, Israel might have taken the credit. But with only 300, the victory could only be attributed to God. Judges chapter 7 verse 2. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me, saying, 'My own strength has saved me.'" Lesson: when the odds are stacked against you, it's not a death sentence, it's a divine setup. God removes the excess so that His glory shines brightest. Don't fear the reduction. Sometimes subtraction is how God multiplies His impact. 3. Jehoshaphat wasn't a warrior king. But when 3 nations rose up against him, he didn't panic. He prayed. He admitted they didn't know what to do, but they fixed their eyes on God. 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 12. "We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you." God replied, "The battle is not yours, but God's." And instead of swords, they sent singers. Worshippers marched ahead of the army, declaring God's goodness, and confusion broke out in the enemy camp. Lesson: when you worship while overwhelmed, heaven responds. Your praise becomes your weapon, your surrender becomes your strategy, and God proves once again you don't have to handle it because He already has. Let's slow down now. Look at your hands, look at your past. You've survived more than most. You've carried silent battles, smiled through heartbreak, and kept walking even when your soul was tired. But even your strong hands have limits. Strength is not infinite. Endurance has an edge. Let's break it down as if we are teaching a child. A cup can only hold so much water. A bucket can only carry so much weight. A human can only endure so much pressure. At some point, no matter how resilient, the vessel reaches capacity. And when that moment comes, it's not failure, it's design. You weren't created to be limitless. You were created to depend on the one who is. God is not surprised that you feel like breaking. He created you. He understands the tension between divine calling and human weakness. That's why the word says, "For He knoweth our frame, He remembereth that we are dust." Psalm chapter 103 verse 14. You are not a superhero. You are not made of steel. You are dust wrapped in divine breath. And yet, God chose you. He anointed you, knowing full well what you could and could not handle. So when you collapse in His presence, don't apologize. That's exactly where you were meant to land, in the arms of the one who carries what you can't. He gets involved not because you failed, but because He designed you to need Him. Let's go even deeper now. There's a powerful misunderstanding in the lives of many believers, a lie that says if you surrender, you've failed. But the truth is this: surrender is not defeat. It's divine alignment. People often confuse surrender with quitting, but they are not the same. Quitting says, I give up. There is no hope. But surrender says, I give it to God. My hope is no longer in my effort. It's in Him. One is rooted in despair. The other is rooted in trust. One collapses under pressure. The other opens the door for divine help. Let me make it simple. Imagine a little child trying to carry a heavy box. He grunts, stumbles, and fights with all his little strength. The father watches patiently. Finally, the child lifts his hands, looks up, and says, Daddy, help me. Instantly, the father steps in, strong, loving, capable, and lifts what the child never could. This is the posture God is waiting for, not your perfection, but your permission. He doesn't need you to prove your strength. He wants you to release your burden. Isaiah 41:10 says, Fear thou not, for I am with thee. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. The help is already available. The strength is already promised. But you must choose to let Him carry what you can't. That's not weakness. That's wisdom wrapped in worship. Here's a truth most people never speak out loud. Sometimes the real burden isn't the financial struggle, the delay, or the external opposition. It's the pressure inside your mind. It's the silent war no one sees, the constant what-ifs, the inner dialogue that never stops. You've likely whispered things like, what if this doesn't work? What if I fail again? What if I disappoint everyone who believed in me? These thoughts aren't harmless. They are strategic weapons, and they don't come from God. Chosen one, listen very carefully. The enemy's goal is not just to break your body, it's to drain your mind. Why? Because a tired mind won't trust. A weary mind won't surrender. A cluttered mind has no room for divine strategy. The battle is always mental before it ever becomes visible. That's why Paul urged us in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, to cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God. The enemy uses thoughts as arrows, fiery darts aimed to keep you trapped in overthinking, anxiety, and fear. But God offers something different, something greater. God offers you peace, not as a theory, but as a weapon. Philippians chapter 4, verse 7 says, And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. That kind of peace doesn't come from everything being perfect. It comes from knowing that God is present, even in the chaos. Peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the supernatural calm that guards your mind when everything around you is screaming. And that peace isn't earned. It's received when you finally stop rehearsing your fears and start releasing your faith. Let's break this down clearly. What does divine partnership actually mean? It's not about sitting back and doing nothing while waiting for God to fix everything. And it's not about doing everything in your own strength while begging God to catch up. Divine partnership is a holy rhythm, a sacred dance between obedience and grace. It means you trust, and He leads. You move in faith, and He moves in power. You step out, and He shows up. It's not about perfection, it's about participation. God doesn't need your strength, He desires your surrender. Look at Peter in Matthew 14. Jesus said one word, "Come." Peter obeyed. He stepped out of the boat, walking on water. doing the impossible. But the moment fear crept in and he began to sink, Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him. That is divine partnership. Peter couldn't walk on water by himself, but he could say yes. He could move toward Jesus. And even in his moment of weakness, Jesus didn't let him drown. Chosen one, God is not asking you to be superhuman. He's asking you to believe enough to move, and trust that when your strength fails, his hand never will. Let's answer a mystery that has haunted many hearts in their darkest moments. Why is God silent when I'm at my breaking point? The answer may shock you. Sometimes he's not speaking because he's standing. He's not distant. He's not ignoring you. He's just closer than you think. Ask the 3 Hebrew boys. They didn't hear a word from heaven as they were tied up, dragged out, and thrown into the blazing furnace. God didn't thunder from the sky. He didn't send an angel ahead of time with a warning. But when King Nebuchadnezzar peered into the flames, he declared, "I see 4 men loose, and the 4th looks like the Son of God." Daniel chapter 3 verse 25. God didn't stop the fire. He stepped into it. That's what divine presence looks like. It doesn't always arrive with loud declarations or dramatic rescues. Sometimes it shows up in complete silence, wrapped in fireproof faithfulness. His silence is not absence, it's evidence that he's near enough to hold you. While you're panicking, he's protecting. While you're wondering where he is, he's right beside you, not always fixing the situation instantly, but always fighting for you in it. So if heaven feels quiet, don't lose heart. You might just be standing closer to God than you've ever been. This next truth will blow your mind and flip everything you thought you knew about strength. What if the very thing you're trying to hide, your weakness, is actually your greatest weapon? Not a liability, not a flaw, but the very access point to divine power. 2 Corinthians 12:9 NLT says, "My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness." That means God doesn't wait for you to have it all together. He meets you right at the breaking point, because that's where his power shines the brightest. The world tells you to cover it up, to pretend, to push through. But heaven says, "Let it show, because that's where I'll meet you." Your tears are not a sign of failure. Your trembling voice is not disqualification. Your overwhelmed mind is not a barrier. These are not signs that you're falling apart. They are invitations for God to come closer. When you stop performing and start surrendering, grace begins to overflow. You don't have to be the strongest in the room. You just need to be the one willing to say, "Lord, I can't," but you can. That is where the power starts. That is where victory begins. And that, chosen one, is the true strength of the surrendered. Let's break this all down into something practical. If you're feeling overwhelmed today, unsure of what to do or how to keep going, here are 3 simple but powerful steps you can take right now to shift the atmosphere around you and within you. Step 1. Speak it. Open your mouth and tell God the truth. "I can't handle this. I surrender." Don't hold it in. Don't pretend to be strong. There is power in confession. When you speak your surrender, you release the weight. You invite heaven to step in. Your words become a key that unlocks divine assistance. Let God hear what's been silently crushing you. He's ready to carry it. Step 2. Rest in it. Once you've released it to God, stop trying to control the outcome. Rest is an act of trust. Let go of the need to fix, manage, or force things. What only God can heal, you must stop touching. Create space, mentally, emotionally, even physically, to breathe and let peace settle in. The storm may still rage around you, but you can rest inside it when you know who's in control. Step 3. Walk in it. Now that you've surrendered and entered rest, it's time to walk, not run, not leap, not sprint. Just take one obedient step at a time. That's how divine partnership works. You move, God multiplies. You obey, He opens, you trust, He transforms. It's not about doing everything at once, it's about doing the next right thing in faith. And as you walk, you'll find that God was already ahead of you, making the way straight. Chosen one, take a deep breath. Let it sink in. You've been carrying something too heavy for human shoulders. And that doesn't make you weak, it makes you real. You've tried, you've prayed, you've held it together when everything inside you felt like it was unraveling. But hear this truth, God never asked you to do it alone. What you're facing right now is not evidence of failure. It's a divine setup, a holy moment where heaven leans in and says, "Now, let me carry this with you." This battle you're in is not a punishment. This weight you feel is not a curse. It is a divine invitation, a call into deeper trust, into greater surrender, into supernatural peace. God is whispering to your soul, "You can't handle this. That's why I'm involved." And because He's involved, you will not drown in this. You will not fall apart. You will not be crushed by the pressure. This is your moment to lay it all down, the stress, the fear, the pretending, the pressure. This is the moment you stop striving and start surrendering. And when you do, you will see miracles, not because you were strong enough to make it happen, but because you finally let God be God.